All right, let's talk about something you probably do every single day. Listen to music. We're going to plug in and really explore the hidden power packed into your favorite playlist. So let's just start with this big question. What if that music you have on in the background isn't just background noise at all? What if it's actually one of the most powerful tools you have to literally change your body, your mood, and even your memories? Well, that's exactly what we're going to dig into. So, where do we even begin? Well, we're not going to start with feelings or anything abstract. Nope. We're starting with cold, hard, physical proof of how sound directly, measurably, impacts your body, specifically your heart. To get this, we've got to talk about something called heart rate variability, or HRV. Now, this is not the same as your heart rate. It's not about how fast your heart is beating. HRV is all about the tiny little differences in time between each beat. And here's the key. The more variation you have, a high HRV, the healthier and more resilient your nervous system is. It's a huge indicator of your overall health. So this amazing study from Oxford Academic went and tested what kind of sounds could actually boost this key health number. And the results, well, they're probably not what you'd guess. The really wild part here is that classical music, it actually created a higher HRV than the songs people said were their personal favorites. Just let that sink in for a second. A piece by Bach could actually be doing more for your nervous system than that song you absolutely love. But wait, it gets even weirder. Because the biggest surprise of the whole study, the sound that gave the biggest health boost to the heart, wasn't actually music. That's right. The winner was white noise. You know, that kind of static sound you might put on to fall asleep. It produced a way bigger increase in HRV than any of the music they tested. And this is a huge deal. It tells us our bodies are fundamentally wired to respond to sound itself, its texture, its consistency, not just a catchy melody or a good beat. The researchers were so surprised, they ended their paper with this line. So the big takeaway here is pretty clear. You can love your playlist, for sure, but a little dose of classical music or even just plain white noise might actually be a prescription for a healthier heart. Okay, so music can literally calm our bodies. But let's be honest, that's not usually why we're hitting play. So let's shift gears from the body to the mind. What are the psychological reasons? Why do we really listen to music? Well, when scientists looked at all the reasons people listen to music, it pretty much all boils down to these big three. And look at that biggest slice. By far, the number one reason is to manage our mood, to get pumped up, to chill out, to just feel something different. The next biggest is self-awareness, using songs to kind of understand ourselves or think about the past. And the tiniest slice, social stuff. It's kind of funny, right? It shows we use music much more to manage our own internal world than to connect with other people. Okay, but this brings up a huge, obvious question. If the main reason we listen is to feel better, why in the world do we sometimes put on a sad song on purpose? It makes no sense, but almost all of us do it. A study in the journal PLOS looked into this exact mystery and found there are actually four big rewards. First, sad music helps us process our own sadness. It offers consolation. It also helps us feel empathy. It sparks our imagination. And maybe the most important one, it lets us tap into deep, profound sadness without any of the actual real-life bad stuff happening. It's like a safe container for those tough emotions. And here is the real kicker from that study. The emotion people reported feeling most often when listening to so-called sad music wasn't sadness. It was nostalgia, which is this complex, kind of bittersweet, but often really pleasant feeling. So we're not just chasing sadness, we're looking for meaning and a connection to who we were. And that link between music and memory is unbelievably strong. It's so powerful, in fact, that it's not just about triggering old memories. Music can actually be used as a tool to help build new memories and even reshape the old ones. Okay, you have to hear this. On one side, you've got learning. Studies show that when you're trying to learn something, familiar music acts like a scaffold for your brain. It gives it a structure to hang new information on, which makes it easier to remember later. But then there's the other side, and this is just mind-blowing. You can apparently change the feeling of an old memory. By playing positive music while you think about a bad or just a neutral memory, over time you can actually change its emotional color, making it feel less negative. So we've seen how music can work on this really personal level, healing our bodies, managing our minds, changing our past. But this incredible power can be scaled up, and when that happens, it can be used for control. So let's zoom all the way out and look at what happens when music is used as a weapon. And there's probably no more chilling or clear example of this than in Nazi Germany. Under the Third Reich, music wasn't just art anymore. It was turned into a calculated, powerful tool for state propaganda. So here's how they did it. First, they promoted very specific kinds of music, especially what they called folk music, to try and create this feeling of one single, unified German identity. The whole point was to create a shared soundtrack for their ideology. And at the exact same time, they used music to draw a line in the sand, to define who was an enemy. They banned and censored what they called degenerate music, which was often jazz or music written by Jewish composers. It was a way to dehumanize and exclude whole groups of people. And they were incredibly systematic about it. Music was blasted at political rallies to whip people into a frenzy. It was all over the radio to shape how people thought. Artists were silenced. They even took the very jazz music they banned and created their own twisted propaganda version with bands like Charlie and his orchestra to broadcast their message to other countries. It's a terrifying example of how the same thing we use for comfort can be twisted into a tool of control. So after all that, from our heartbeats to the history books, what does it mean for us right now? Well, let's bring all that massive power right back to where it starts, with you and the phone in your pocket. Think about the incredible spectrum we've just covered. On the most personal level, music can physically calm your nervous system. It can act like a remote control for your mood, helping you work through emotions. It can even be a tool to build new memories and reframe old ones. And at its most massive scale, its power is so great that it can be used to steer an entire nation. So, here's the bottom line. Your playlist isn't just entertainment. It's an active force. It's a tool for your body, a tool for your mind, and a tool for your memories. You are the conductor of the soundtrack to your own life. So the only real question is, how are you going to use it? Thanks for listening.